How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Poppy Sixkilla and welcome back to the Divine Deception. We have discovered that we do not need a key to continue with this story. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I don't know how many cards there's going to be in each one. I mean, we're only going to fit one more, unless we can, like, move around or something. But I need to know how this one's going to end. I'm liking it. I'm liking this part so far, very much. Completely made. Are you threatening us? In so many words, Odin's statement about having to earn our way out immediately rubbed me the wrong way. Oh, god damn it. What did this old coot have up his sleeve this time? Odin, is this really the time for this? Life does not choose when it wishes to challenge you at times that are convenient. In fact, it has a way of striking you when you simply cannot afford to leave. Are you going to try and fight us? Bad idea. It's 2 versus 1 and no offense, but age isn't on your side. Oh, you mean this? Odin gestured to the weapon in his other hand. This is just to make a point. Seemingly to prove it, Odin dropped the sword as soon as he had lifted it. Even I'm aware that I cannot face you two in a physical duel. Now, where I am my prime, but that is a different story, from a different time. No, this battle will be of wits. Cool. And what's going to stop us from just overpowering you and leaving? Mercury. Such defiance in this one. Normally I'd look down on such behaviour, but for some reason it rather suits you. At any rate, you can barge out if you wish, but know that the simple security measures you've circumvented were far from the only defence in my castle. Already you two have been captured on camera breaking in. If you refuse to play by my terms, I'll simply have to answer in kind by sending that footage to the relevant authorities. And believe me, when a man of my stature calls upon the police, they are wont to listen. Shit, that could be bad. But bad for Lara too. Of course, were you to permanently silence me in this cavern, I could not fulfill that threat, but then you'd have murdered Odin Dyson. And surely, even you should know there are consequences for such an action. As much as Odin was an arsehole, I wasn't exactly eager to jump to murder either. Okay, fine. What are your terms? Simple. I subject the two of you to a test, a game where you prove your worth. If you win, you can make your way out of the sanctum unfettered. And if we lose? And if we lose? Hey, answer please. Mercury, if he was going to answer, he would have spoken up already. Okay, alright. Sidebar. I grabbed Lara's arm and pulled her to the side. Then I spoke in a slightly hushed tone. Alright, so how are we feeling about all of this? Are you asking me if I want to indulge in this? Then, no shit, obviously I don't. But if you're asking me what we should do, I'd say the answer's similarly obvious. I don't want to piss off Odin. You don't either. Yeah, it's probably opening a whole can of worms. But Odin's not talking about the punishment. Scare tactic. Besides, if we lose, we just bum rush him like you suggested, and then we deal with things from there. I don't love that plan. Fucking duh, do you have a better one? I didn't. So I moved back over to Odin. Okay. Deal. Bah, I dislike that term. It makes it sound as though you had any choice in accepting this arrangement. I bit my tongue. So what's the test, or game? Instead of answering, Odin absent-mindedly walked over to another one of his displays. He took down a circular wooden shield, a type of Viking might wear. Then he walked further in and opened the cabinet. He took out 4 golden chalices. He opened another drawer and took out 4 golden coins. Finally, he walked back over to us and put the items on the table next to us. Now then, let the rules commence. Odin shouted this with a fury. Lara and I just stared at him. After a moment, he cleared his throat. Did it not occur to him, as he made that declaration, that he was the one who actually had to explain the rules? You two shall attempt to make the journey to the afterlife. Though he hid it, I could detect a hint of embarrassment in the old man's voice. You recently passed away. How? Murder. Murder? Who killed me? You don't know. It was a gathering of your family and friends, but when the lights went out, you felt a stabbing sensation in your back. Lara, I sincerely doubt this is going to be relevant to the game. I'm just trying to buy in. Also, wait, we were both murdered? Was it the same gathering? You two are both twins, both faced with the same dilemma. The gathering was for both of you. You both were stabbed. Both of us had our friends and family gathered. Was it our birthday? Does it matter? I bet it was our birthday. It'd make sense if it was our birthday. That's why it happened at the same time. Now each of your undead souls trek forth and are met with 2 figures. The brother gods of the afterlife. The god of death and the god of life. Each one may grant you a passage to the world beyond, but before either shall aid you, you must first acquire their services. Luckily before you, between the 2 brothers, there floats a wheel upon which 4 golden coins are evenly spread out. Payment of 4 golden coins to either brother would get you where you need to go. But but each brother is awfully picky, each incredibly vain. The brothers both will only accept coins which praise their name to the sky. Odin lifted up one of the gold coins and held it so we could both see. He first showed us the side with the human face on it. Life. He flipped it around, showing the side with the skull. Or death. Man, my immortal soul's on the line here. And these brothers won't help out unless the coins I give them are all facing a certain way. These guys are some jerks. Most gods are. Alright, fine. Flip the coins so all they're facing the same way and give them to one of the brothers. Life, or in this case, death, is never so simple. Of course not. As your spirit approaches the wheel, 4 chalices materialize. Chalices of human sin, of earthly regrets. These chalices, they are proof of your past life. Only you can see them, touch them. To the gods, unburdened with a soul that was once mortal, it is as though these chalices simply do not exist. The chalices are, despite their size, incredibly weighty. However, you retain a bit of strength remaining from your past life, enough to barely lift the chalices. Since you possess 2 hands, you can lift 2 chalices at a time. When a chalice is lifted, you can see the coin beneath and flip it. Wait, if we're holding 2 cups with both hands, how do we flip the coins? You are now a spirit not constrained by the physical realm. Your essence has the strength to flip the coins on its own. In that case, why can I only hold 2 cups again? The chalices are human sin and regret embodied. They require a physical presence to raise. And my spirit essence can't travel through them? Indeed, it is linked to your human soul after all. Seems incredibly contrived, but whatever. You wish to make the coins all face the same way, honor either life or death. However, there is a snag. Shocker. These chalices are placed upon the wheel of fate, and as we all know, the wheel of fate is prone to spin whenever the scales are shifted. Therefore, as soon as the chalices are placed back down over the coins, the wheel will spin rapidly before you. It shall spin in such a manner that you shall completely lose track of which chalices you have just raised. Oh no! Oh yes! To make matters worse, your physical strength is fleeting. By the second you feel the form you once held dissipate. At most you'll be able to raise both chalices a total of 5 times. How specific. The gods are not without mercy, however. If at any point the chalices are placed over 4 coins which all praise their name, they shall take this as payment and move you to the place beyond. However, if you're unable to make payment, if you're unable to lift the chalices once more, and the coins remain unaligned, you shall be doomed to wander limbo in perpetuity. Understand? Barely. I get it. But wait a second. Why did these chalices fall on top of the wheel in the first place? That's your question? You do not know. You can merely speculate. We don't know any of this. Why are you holding that detail out? Oh, but you do. We do? We know about the brother gods and the afterlife and the payment and whatnot. Indeed, as you walked upon this path, this knowledge seemed to come to you naturally, as it does to all spirits. In fact, it is as though you always knew these truths, but the curse of life prevented you from remembering them. Okay then. So, we don't get to know why the chalices are there, huh? Maybe it's a test to get into the afterlife. Maybe it happens to everybody and you need to overcome it if you want to move on. So you're saying that the determining factor as to whether you get to pass on as the spirit as if you can solve a logic puzzle? It seems like a pretty messed up system. Hold on a minute, why am I engaging with this in the first place? None of this is real. Odin, could you just explain what we need to do for your test? Ah, but I just did. Could you explain it without all the mythology nonsense? Like, just the physical actions and rules that'll be required? Odin sighed. The greater art of the storyteller is dead, and we've killed it. Very well then. I thought the rules should have been clear by now, but I shall enumerate them more clearly for the dim-witted amongst you. The phrase amongst you had a very different meaning when there were only 2 people. There are 4 coins. There are 4 chalices. The chalices will be placed over the coins. You shall not get to know the position of the coins, where the coins are at when we start. You get to lift any 2 chalices on your turn. When the chalices are lifted, you can observe them and turn them however you wish. At the end of your turn, you'll put the chalices back over the coins. Once the chalices are back over the coins, I will tell you if all 4 coins are facing the same way. If they are, you win. If they aren't, you'll close your eyes and I'll spin the wheel upon which the chalices and coins are placed on. When you make it to choose the chalices, you shall point at the 2 you wish to lift, and I'll have another opportunity to spin the wheel before you lift the chalices that occupy those positions. I've been listening along intently up to this point, however, this is the section that I felt I needed to interject. Whoa, hold on. What's that about? A mere formality, Mercury. A little addition I added to make sure you do not rely on mere chance. Your victory must be airtight. I wanted to argue. Instead, I shrugged. Good. You have a total of 5 turns. If after 5 turns you cannot make all 4 coins face the same direction, you lose. The only actions permitted are the ones clearly defined in the rules. While I appreciate creativity, this is not a weapon permitted within this battlefield. No marking the chalices in any attempt to keep yourself navigated. No trickery involving magnets or other tools. No placing the chalices in a specific way, or leaving the coins on their edges or any nonsense like that. You shall live and die by a single attribute. Logic. But how could you possibly logically figure that out? It's all chance. Is this simple enough for you? Odin asked the question pointedly at me. I took a second to think. Then I nodded. I hadn't yet cracked how to play this game, but at the very least I understood the parameters well enough now. No law bullshit. This is just a logic check. I could handle logic checks. I took a moment to appreciate Odin's variety with his trials. To enter the sanctum, I had to solve a puzzle where you could see in the escape room, one that primarily relied upon creative thinking and abstract connections. In contrast, this challenge clearly relied on basic and straightforward principles of logic and deduction. He clearly wanted to test different modes of thinking, and yet, all the while, he had a penchant for dressing things up in weird, abstract metaphors and fables involving gods and myths. It was an odd fascination, to say the least. His name is fucking Odin. Odin would surely be an interesting person to study. Understanding the way his mind works, how he came to be this person. A job for someone more empathetic, perhaps. Yeah, I think I get it. Sounds good, I like this test. Agreed. I'm sure we can handle this. Excellent, excellent. Very well then, let us begin. Who wishes to challenge the Wheel of Fate first? Excuse me? Oh, do you not pay attention? You must be twins. You may be twins struck with a similar fate, but you approach the juncture at separate periods. Similarly, the two of you shall both face this puzzle alone. Seriously? You didn't say anything about this. You didn't ask. Odin, I don't think. A poor habit to develop, girl. You ought to do a lot more thinking. Hence why I aim to separate the two of you. I found that the weak often use each other as a stepladder to rise above their rightful station. And what would you call the whole Zahak thing? The two of you approaching this together would bounce ideas off one another, discuss, and all sorts of other completely unsportsmanlike things. How is discussing the problem unsportsmanlike? A task designed for one mind should be faced by one mind. By combining two heads, the difficulty is effectively halved. No, that won't do at all. You two shall face this task separately. I exchanged a look with Lara. Neither of us seemed pleased with this development, but there was only so much we could do about it. Okay then. But Odin, what if one of us wins and the other loses? You shall succeed and falter by your own skin. If one amongst you pass the test and the other fails, then the rewards and punishments shall be justly delivered. Meaning, the winner may leave, the loser may not. It's fine. It is? I mean, I can handle this, so at least I'll be able to escape. Hey, I also have this easy. Excellent. Then this separation shall pose no threat. I guess not. Good. Then Mercury, if you'd be so kind, could you make your way to the corner? The corner? Seriously? Indeed. And if you could not face into it, that would be for the best. Oh, and naturally, no talking, no exchanging hints, nothing of the sort. That would defeat the whole purpose of this exercise. Being told to face the corner like a child wasn't massively exciting for me. But no choice, right? So kinda awkwardly, I walk over to the corner of the room. I stood facing the wall, and then, a few moments later, I heard the movements from behind. It must be starting. Well, I should take advantage of the time I have. Unfortunately for Lara, she has much more limited period of time in which she has to come up with a strategy. But I had the benefit of foresight. Speaking of foresight, a thought crossed my mind. I noticed something hanging on the wall. I didn't like being completely devoid of tools. If I took any weapons, that'd probably be noticed. I can't imagine Odin would be happy to part with any of his likely expensive murder ornaments. When hanging up next to one of the ornaments as a part of the decorations, I noticed a wire. That could work. Subtly, without looking back, without much movement, I reached out for the wire, and then I pulled and took it. Finally, I put the wire in my pocket. Good. There. Hopefully that'd come in handy. Or actually, hopefully that wouldn't. But you know, if it would come in handy, I now have it. So that's good. Back to the matter at hand. The game. The coin game. Let's see. How to guarantee all the coins face the same way? I racked my brain, but I was coming up empty. How? Was that even possible? I mean, in theory, it was incredibly likely that I'd be able to. If I just decided to make them all heads or all skulls, either way, it'd probably be possible. Yeah, just by chance. I mean, I get to check 2 cups 5 times. That's 10 checks. The odds that I get to check all 4 is incredibly high. But things weren't that simple. Odin was controlling what cups I'd actually get to pick. Basically, he would ensure my worst possible luck. Any strategy that relies on probability was dead in the water from the start. Thinking about it more, if Odin wanted, he could make sure that I never even got the chance to look under one of the cups. In that case, how could it be possible? It couldn't, right? How could you make any progress? Think. What information vectors are there? Well, for one, there was the wind stain. Odin's keeping track of all 4 coins. If at any time a turn ended with all 4 coins facing the same way, it'd be over. So alternatively, when the game continues, you can be sure that 4 coins aren't facing the same way. Maybe that's obvious, but it'd probably be important. Still, there has to be more than that. If that's all I had to work with, then winning was impossible. Well, was that it? Was this an impossible game? Was that the trick? No. The way Odin spoke, it sounded like there was definitely a way to get past it. I just wasn't seeing it. Think. What ways could I impact the game? Could I flip the coins however I wanted? And I could pick which cups to flip. Except, seeing as Odin could spin the wheel after my choice, which cups I flipped were meaningless. But wait. That doesn't make sense. If it was meaningless, why would he let me pick the spaces in the first place? Well done. My thoughts were interrupted by a commotion. Whew. That was close. If I had... Oh. No. Not a word from you. Not while Mercury's yet to face the gauntlet. So I could turn around now? But of course. I did just that. Lara was standing proud in front of Odin. Odin, for his part, didn't look particularly bothered to be bested. Lara, since you've already succeeded, there's no need for you to go to the corner. You can watch Mercury. Cool. So now, come Mercury. Walk the path to the afterlife. Pay the piper. Without a word, I approached Odin. I was in no rush. After all, I hadn't quite figured out my strategy for approaching the game yet, but it didn't matter. I'd figure it out. And I'd come out ahead. If Lara could solve it with less time, then so could I. I walked right up to Odin. Ready to play? Yep. The trick is to not overcomplicate things. I just have to make all the coins face the same way. Simple as that. If this is your mindset, I wonder, can you truly find the way forward? I wouldn't be so quick to underestimate me. Talk is cheap. Now is the time for action. Couldn't have put it better myself. Well then, shall we dance? I thought you'd never ask. If you don't mind, let us oh my god, just get to it. And with Lara's chastisement, both Odin and I shut up. Instead, we began to play. One final thing about having a train of logic. Sometimes when you reach the end of that dusty old road, you're going to have to put the final piece together yourself. And I really mean by yourself. You'll sometimes be presented with a prompt where you have to type in the correct answer. But it's fine. If you've been following along with the logic up till that point, you'll be fine. It'll be easy. Alright, that's it. I just wanted to let you know. Oh man, this is going to suck. I'm thoughtful like that. I could let you figure it out yourself, but I decided to check in with you. That's how you know I care. You know, sometimes the problems you're faced with are quite complex and need to track multiple trains of thought at the same time. Don't worry, it's really not anything fancy. Just treat it how you normally treat a logic train, except, you know, you're following 2 at the same time. Simple. Great. How do I even start this? How do I even end this? I mean, Odin gets total control of which cups I end up with. There has to be a way to control what I'm selecting. No, I should ignore distractions. If I manipulate Odin, I could get some input on the cups I end up with. Choose different angles of cups. You're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to choose different angles of cups either. I guess we do have to manipulate Odin. We'll try that. I need to come up with a plan with consistency, and how the hell would I manipulate Odin? Stupid, so stupid. Okay. Those 2 other things were against the rules. You said we're not allowed to mark the cups and we're not allowed to choose different angles. We'll do that. I need to come up with a plan. I mean, there will be differences between choosing 2 adjacent cups and 2 non-adjacent cups. I should try to spend the first 2 turns setting all the coins a single direction. At the very least, I can guarantee a difference between choosing a straight line of cups or a diagonal of cups. I can get a maximum of 2 coins facing the same way in 2 turns with certainty. No, you get 3. You get 3, right? So let's apply that knowledge to the largest problem currently facing my victory. If I choose a straight line of cups, then a diagonal one, I'm guaranteed to see at least 3 coins. I need to be able to guarantee that I can make all coins face the same direction on the final turn. Flip them all the same way, and I know that after 2 turns, I'd have a certain setup. If just 1 coin is flipped the wrong way, Odin can just make it so I can't flip it. But then we just flip it the other way if it's wrong. So then what comes after that? I need to make 2 straight lines of coins face opposite directions. We just flip it the other way, right? If we do 3, that's 3 out of 4. If we have 1 at that point, then we just need to flip those 3 the other way. And then we win. Which only takes 4 turns, right? I don't know what we want here. Straight lines of coins or diagonal lines. Let's go with diagonal. I don't know what that means. If I can just flip the final coin to be over, but I most certainly not get the chance. Yes, on the last turn I could just pick a diagonal line of cups. So then with no direction, how do I make any progress? If the diagonals have opposite facing coins, then no matter which diagonal I choose, I can flip both coins and win the game. Just flipping a single coin seems pretty pointless. It just leaves one question for me. Wait, that might just be it. What if I choose a diagonal line of cups to flip, and only flip a single coin? How can I guarantee a position of 2 diagonal lines of opposite facing coins? In that case, I can guarantee to flip one coin adjacently to the already flipped coin. To guarantee it, I'll first need a position of 3 coins facing one way and 1 facing another. Two straight lines of opposite facing coins. I'm not sure how... First need a position that isn't possible. Can we go with that? That way I would ensure that 2 lines are straight opposite, so fuck, I'm just fucked. Okay, that's alright. Let's try that again. Alright, we've already lost all our coins, so we might as well just skip it already. Let's stick with that one. That way I would ensure 2 straight lines of opposite facing coins, and I can only guarantee it by... I can't guarantee it. I don't know what they mean by straight lines. They're talking about that way as opposed to diagonals. Is that all? In that case, if I flipped over a straight line of cups, then flipped both coins I saw, my victory would be guaranteed. Okay, I've come up with a conclusion, which means that the path to victory is somewhat straightforward. Within 3 turns, I can ensure that there are 2 straight lines of opposite facing coins without fail. In the last 2 turns, if I start with a position of 2 straight lines of opposite facing coins, I can win without fail. With the strategy in tow, I began to flip cups and coins. I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about now. Just as I predicted, Odin always gave me the worst option. Just like I predicted, I always responded with what guaranteed me progress. After a cutthroat 5 turns, I finally made my final 2 coin flips. So did I win? It would appear that you've emerged victorious. Alright. I felt like jumping in the air in joy. I restrained myself, obviously, but still. Good feeling. Very satisfied. I knew I could do it. Nice work, Mercury. Thanks. Oh, good work you too, Lara. Want to take another shot at that one? Nope. If I may ask, what was your guiding light throughout this task? You mean, what was my strategy? To be less poetic. Oh, I read your poem, so I didn't know if you get to lay claim to that epithet. Anyways, it was simple enough once I figured out that lifting up cups in a line was substantially different than lifting up cups diagonally. I knew if I started out doing both of those back to back, I'd get to see 3 of the coins. Setting them all the same way felt like a good first step. And since the game didn't end there and then, I knew the 4th coin was the other way. After that, I was kinda hoping that by choosing a diagonal, I'd be able to find the 4th coin and set it right. But seeing as you were never gonna let that happen, my next best thing was flipping one of the coins back. That way I knew for a fact that there was 1 straight line of coins facing one way, and 1 line of coins facing the other. From there, it was checkmate. If I lifted 2 cups in a line, and I got 2 coins facing the same way, I could flip them both and be done with it. On the other hand, if the coins were different, I could still flip them both, because then the coins would be separated in 2 lines of different faces. But it's a wheel, right? Which means this line is going to be this line, and then it's going to be this line, and then it's going to be this line, right? And no matter how you spin the wheel, if I lifted 2 cups diagonally, I was certain to always put things in order. Good. Very good. Nice to know you didn't just stumble into the correct answer. You really think that of me? One can never be too sure. Stranger things have happened. Damn, Odin really didn't believe in me. I don't know why, but despite not caring about Odin at all, it still stung a little. Poor dies, my children. Very well then, I'm a man of my word. You've passed to the afterlife. That is, the life after this bunker. Proud of that one, huh? Thank you, Odin. So glad you could help us like that. Ah, don't mention it. Now, if everything else is settled... Hold on. I cut in before Odin could keep speaking. Part of me wanted to cut my losses. Get out while the going was still good, but... I was curious. Sue me. Before anything else, I want to ask you another question. Mercury? Another, huh? How greedy. Odin examined me, stroking his beard. He was giving my request deliberation, which perhaps was more than I expected. After a bit of time, he nodded. Okay then. I see no foul in this. Ask. Thank you, Odin. That means a lot. Okay, so I want to know. Zahak. Where is he now? Oh, did I not inform you the end of the story? You told me he was in jail. But depending on what he was charged with, I doubt he was put away with a life sentence. So then where is he now? Underground, I imagine. Huh? You mean he's dead? Indeed. Damn. Damn indeed. Taken from us too soon. He lived a long life, but passed away before he could be released from prison. Disease, if I remember right. It's a shame. Sorry to hear that, Odin. Wait, I'm not done with this line of questioning. I wasn't about to toss a softball and call it a day. The Zahak lead felt important. What about relatives? Did Zahak have any children? Quite thorough, this one. It is true that men of stature often pass down their will through legacy. Marduk and myself have certainly taken this route. Indeed, Zahak did have a daughter, however she too passed away quite some time ago. Unfortunately for you, sometimes answers aren't that simple. Okay, then what about relationships? Zahak had a wife, right? What about her? Ah, you kidding her? You kidding her? Too weak-willed, I fear. After her daughter's passing, considering her husband's imprisonment, there was nothing left for the poor widow. She moved away from Panthea, and as far as I know, she's had nothing to do with the city's affairs for some time. Damn. Looked like I wasn't get an easy solution after all. Well, I guess the Zahak 2.0 explanation was a little simplistic in the first place. I guess it was possible that I was overinflating the importance of Zahak in the current state of Panthea. He may have shaped the city, but time has passed. Things are different now. Okay, let me tackle this from a different angle. You claim that you don't intend to meddle with Panthean affairs anymore. At least not to any major extent. Indeed. I am in my twilight years. My eyes are set slightly closer to home. If that's the case, what's with the files I found? Did I not explain this already? Just because I do not wish to meddle doesn't mean I do not wish to stay informed. Okay, but the files had threat levels. They talked about protecting something. They were clearly written with an agenda, one that seemingly will be acted upon. Were the notes even written by you? I believe you've asked your one question, did you not? Ah, shit. He was right. Damn it, why did I waste my time on this Zahak thing? That information was stuff I could get on my own time. Very well then, if the matter is settled, we should move back to topic I was going to say. And that is, you'll leave from my house. I'm aware that you're being pursued by an assassin type, but the moon has moved far. At this point, daylight approaches. I find it unlikely that this assassin has laid in wait all this time, especially knowing of me and my nature. Simply put, it would be too great of a risk on their part. Therefore, you should probably have safe passage through the forest. Now, does this assassin know your identity? In that case, if you reach your home, you should be safe. He definitely knows me. But you can still protect yourself, can you not? Yeah, I've got some wiggle room. Very well then. It is proper for you to now make your leave. I nodded and Lara followed suit. Again, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I guess. I kept that last part to myself. We made our way to the stairs. However, before we could make our way up... one last thing. Odin spoke, and we stopped in our tracks. Lara, I must say, you never cease to impress. Oh, thank you. This is not idle flattery. Both of you should be commended for facing this trial. However, Mercury had a bit of time to plot. You, however, were immediately thrusted into the gauntlet and still emerged victorious. I wanted to interject that I could have solved it too, but that seemed petty. You impressed me similarly during your stay at my mansion. You have your sensibilities. You have a keen mind if unpolished in some areas. Chiefly you have potential. That is a rare and cherished thing. You can go far. Aim far. Oh, that's super generous of you to say. I'll be sure to do just that. This is the first time I'd heard such praise from Odin. I guess he really did hold a high opinion of Lara, sorry. That wasn't something that could be won in a single night. Probably has something to do with the time they spent together beforehand. And Mercury. Oh, you've got something to say to me? Indeed, you. I may have been too quick to judge you. No, thanks. You two have potential yet. However, whether you reach your desires at the end of this quest, or if the efforts will be for naught, that is much harder to see. Either way, I'm certain that your journey will be quite fascinating. And that's all I can ask for. I shall be watching over you with great anticipation. Do not disappoint. I'll try not to. Very well then. That is all. And like that, just as quickly as Odin had interrupted us, he turned back away and began making his way over to the table. We were done. There was a lot to process about the whole encounter. But first things first, let's get to safety. Lara made her way up the stairs and I followed close behind her. She pushed open the hatch above us, and just like that, we were back in the weird room with the statues. We kept walking in silence out of the room through the mansion's halls until we took an unfamiliar turn. Before I knew it, we were standing at the front door. And then we moved through it. We were outside Odin's mansion. We were, for a lack of a better word, free. As Odin speculated, it didn't appear that Thane was in sight, and the trail that led out to the forest, and eventually back to Panthea properly, was well within view. Well then indeed. That was certainly a thing. Yeah, you're telling me. Odin's quite a character, huh? Yeah, not really in a good way. No. Though I have to imagine if divorced from context, this whole gimmick would play a lot better. Agreed. Anyways, the important part is that we made it through his game and back out into the world. Yep. Sheesh, that game. What was the point of that whole story? Why add any of it? It's just aesthetics. I noticed you definitely got into it. Hey look, I was just going along with it. Thought it'd be easier that way. I'm not a part of your little gang. I need to act tough in front of me. Not sure what you're implying, but it sure as shit isn't true. Hey, no need to get defensive. I'm just saying, you should look into playing some RPGs. Seems like you'd be into it. Whatever. Anyway, I guess we're safe. For now, at least. Yeah, for now. But I mean, you gotta get back to work with them, right? Well, work. How's that gonna work out? Well, I'll tell you, I'm sure as shit not gonna be leaving the V-Hall without a number of eyes on me. Probably want to invest in some home security. But how to actually deal with it? Lara seemed to trail off somewhat. Seems like she was putting off thinking about this part. I don't know. Like I said, this whole encounter was something of a draw. I learned his dirty secret, he learned mine. Hard to say which, if either, mattered tomato. Worst case scenario could blow up in both our stations. So, it's weird. I guess I'll just, not do anything. Not do anything? Seriously? It feels wrong. And I mean, if he brings shit up, obviously so will I. But just, without harder evidence, without a better position, it's difficult. I work hard to get where I was in the duets. I don't want to risk that. Thane's also put in a riskier position after the whole affair with Gil. He probably wants to play things safe as well. So there we go. Stalemate. Alright then. That's good. Good enough. I nodded. Then I took a moment to scan the perimeter. Again, I didn't see any signs of Thane. Looks like Odin was probably right. I can't imagine Thane still lurking about. Especially with daybreak coming any minute now. Too risky for him. You're right. We can probably just go home now. Still, I won't feel safe until... well, I don't know. Until I feel safe. Understandable. Say, do you want me to walk with you until you're back home? I mean, I know that sounds a little weird, but just, as a precaution. For a moment, I entertained the idea. After a second's thought, I shook my head. Nah. I mean, I appreciate the offer. I just don't think that's really necessary. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm super thankful for everything you did tonight. But, well, don't take this the wrong way, but I kind of want nothing to do with either of you after tonight. A look of shock crossed Lara's face, as if she hadn't expected this response. Then she nodded her head in understanding. Right, that's fair. Makes a lot of sense. It's not like we owe each other anything. We just both happen to run away at the same time. Right. Like I said, I appreciate your help up until now. But beyond our shared interest in not being murdered, I think that's as far as the relationship goes. Lara nodded again, this time more sure of herself. Okay then. I guess I'll just start leaving now. Lara took a few steps toward the trail. You coming? Actually, I think I'm going to take a minute. Just, collect my thoughts. Okay then. I guess this is goodbye then. We probably won't see each other again. I'd imagine not. In that case, it was nice knowing you. You too. I hope everything works out for you in the duets. I really do. Panthea deserves a lot better leader for the duets. Panthea deserved to be rid of the duets, to be blunt. Thanks. And then for another moment, Lara hesitated. It's funny. Even though there's no reason for it, I kind of feel bad for leaving right now. Right. Oh, thanks, I guess. Thanks? Yeah. You just reminded me of saying that. Of saying that an old friend of mine would say now and again, if you have trouble saying goodbye, then you've been blessed with a meaningful connection. In that case, simply smile and thank the other person. Huh? I like that. I always found it overly sentimental to the point of being cheesy, but it is a nice sentiment, I guess. It is. With that simple final sentence, Lara turned back around. She walked down the path out of the forest. And there I was. There I stood, free, alone. I didn't know how to feel. It was a liberating feeling, sure, but also something of an empty one. I couldn't help but feel conflicted about this night in general. A lot had happened, to be sure, but had I gotten anywhere in particular? Well, I certainly got somewhere. I got out alive. That alone should be a victory. And I learned of the mansion. I learned its true nature. That was good, I thought. But I'd far from learned all the mysteries the boat had to offer. Well, maybe I had. It was hard to say. There was definitely some truth that I'd failed to grasp. The question of how I even wound up there in the first place. The mysterious case of my fainting. What was the deal with that? Was it just coincidence? Or was it the will of hidden ill intent that I'd yet to locate? Or could it be a mixture of the two? People oft would pin things on singular causes. They like to think of reality as nice and clean, or at least that's what they'd imagine of the reality they can't see. But the reality we do see certainly isn't nice and clean. So why would our mysteries be? Is it possible that what landed me in the container was a combination of multiple things, some intentional, some not? Well, even still, there had to be some concrete cause in it all. The thing that caused me to pass out like that, at this point, it dawned on me that I wasn't actually leaving yet. But that was fine. I'd already been a long enough night. What was the harm in staying out a bit longer? I was on a thought stream. I didn't want to get off. This night had brought a lot of truths. Some less pleasant. For instance, I was far less safe than I'd like to think of myself. One thing was for sure, I needed to be a lot less impulsive in the future. I mean, from the start, I knew this journey JC had sent me on would be dangerous. But up until this point, I'd always been cautious, had outs. This was, to put it lightly, a dangerous close shave. Something that I couldn't afford to have happen again. And speaking of JC, no, don't get sad. Don't get emotional. Detach. Was I still dealing with this? What a pain. But yeah, JC's death was always the assumption. Even still, in the light of some recent information, I'd begun to cling to this weak hope that somehow she might still be alive. In some way, she was wrong in that video she sent me. But she'd made it through the other side of the storm alive and, well, she never was going to be well. But alive? That's all I would have wanted. But in the light of the discoveries I'd made tonight, I had to face facts. Sure, I'd still had to actually see a body, but that was because there was no body to see. JC was murdered on the Manji. To think otherwise, that was more than a false hope. The product of emotion, not what someone thinking straight would believe. Oh well. Standing still was wearing me out. Since when did I like to stand still? I should walk around. I was faced with a uniquely beautiful setting. Anyways, this twilight forest ran before the break of dawn. I decided to take a slow walk through the trees. I'd make my way to the main path soon enough to be sure. But what was the rush? As I walked through, my mind turned over to more dark thoughts. I may have escaped pain for now, but could I really be safe? For one, how did I end up passed out in that construction crate? It wasn't natural, it couldn't have been. Even though it didn't really make sense, was it possible that there was someone there when I passed out? Someone who drugged me? If so, then who? Thane played dumb, like he didn't know that I was there. Well, was that the truth? Probably. But the Manjet was Duat property. I had to assume somebody was on the boat with me, but it was another Duat member. Maybe they knocked me out. Thought they killed me. Decided to just leave my body there for the foreseeable future. It just didn't make sense. I don't remember being manually knocked out at all. Regardless, that wasn't the only danger to be worried about. Even if Thane knew nothing, he was still a threat. I wasn't sure how the situation with Lara played out. That seemed complicated and political. But my situation? It seemed a lot more straightforward. Thane didn't want a civilian like me to live and tell tonight's tale. He'd probably continue to hunt me down. Not just him. Even though he was hiding his actions from the Duats, he could probably get them nipping at my heels all the same. He could make up any number of stories as to why I had to be disposed of. Well, would he really send them after me? When I could tell them what I'd witnessed? No, that could easily be circumvented. All he'd have to do was ensure a kill first, ask questions later policy. Hopefully Lara could help me out somewhat on that front. However, I wonder how much she could really do. Thane got a good look at me. He'd probably give a very thorough description of me. He'd try to paint the clearest picture possible. So then, considering my appearance, that could be a problem. And with some other information, it was possible that... Instantly, I stopped in my tracks. My breathing stopped. My heart went still. I could feel the slight breeze pushing on me, and I pushed back. Because I didn't dare make the slightest movement, the slightest sound. Not when Thane was so close. Not when he hadn't noticed me. I just stood there petrified. Please, please, you stay still too. For a few moments, this is the only thought I could possibly enter my brain. However, after enough time had passed, I realized something. Thane wasn't moving either. He was also perfectly still. In other words, so long as I didn't make an obvious noise, I'd be safe. Okay, that was good. That was step 1. Step 2 was figuring out what the fuck was going on. Why was he... I tried analyzing the situation. His position, his stance, his motives. and then I realised what he was up to. He was hiding behind a tree, close to the actual path that left Odin's manor, the path back through the forest. If I had to guess, he was probably waiting for his prey to pass by, so he could ambush them. Wait, that was the same path Lara had walked by earlier. Why had nothing happened then? The answer I ended up settling on wasn't that satisfying, but it was probably the truth. Thane initially counted the two of us leaving at the same time. He must have tracked us down to the mansion, decided that at some point before too long, we'd leave it and try to get out of Panthea's forest. So for his part, he just had to wait. Soon enough, the chance for his ambush would come. He hears vague chatter from a distance. He knows it's coming soon. He waits, and then a person comes into sight, except it's just one person. It's just Lara. And then Thane has to make a snap decision. If he kills Lara, I'm likely to hear this, to flee, likely to get away. So Thane decided to let Lara walk by without doing anything, to spare her essentially, in order to gun for the bigger threat. That was me, I guess. The bigger threat. That in itself was probably worth some thought, but now was not the time. He was in an ambushing position. When I walked down the path, he'd have probably popped out and that would have been that. I certainly would have been killed, and yet, a whim. I felt bad. It pained me to my core to admit it, but really, what had saved me was a whim. A whim to not rush, a whim to think, a whim to pace off the trail, which had moved me to this location of the forest that Thane absolutely could not have predicted. So then, with Thane there, Thane was a bad person. Nobody could dispute that. I mean, Panthea was filled with villains, but Thane was a monster. Mechanical, violent, murderer. The longer he remained, the more atrocities he would commit. He was a public nuisance to the nth degree. And it wasn't like rehabilitation was a likely option to work on. He was a bad person. Nobody would dispute that. Nobody would miss him. And more to the point, I was practical. And practically speaking, Thane was a threat. A threat to a lot of people. A threat to me. He could describe my appearance. He could rally the troops against me. In general, he stood between me and my goals. He was a danger. If I left him alone, he wouldn't leave me alone. And to that end, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. An extreme coincidence, the type of luck I don't like to believe in. I had the drop on Thane in a way that I doubted I would have again anytime soon. So then, it was obvious, right? Logical. Slowly, very slowly, I walked toward Thane. Step, step, as lightly as I could manage. No matter what, I couldn't let Thane notice me, so my approach was slow, but I had to keep approaching. Take too long, Thane might get too restless. A difficult balance to manage for sure, but I made progress. Closer, closer. Before I knew it, I was quite close to Thane. A distance where I could have a normal conversation. But that wasn't close enough. Closer. Now I could probably reach out and touch Thane. He could reach out and grab me. Don't think about that. Don't think about anything. Just wrap the wire around his neck and fucking kill him. Closer. Before I knew it, I was close enough. Too close even. Close enough to where he might hear my breathing. Every second I stayed in this range was a second he might notice me. I couldn't waste any more time. With a weird mix of speed and caution, I took the wire out I'd tucked away in my pocket. And then, in an instant, I wrapped the wire around Thane's neck. And I pulled tight. It was weird, I've never done something like this before. You always think about it in the abstract. It's something hard to conceptualize, but when you're in the moment, it's actually quite easy. Just motions you do in daily life. This wasn't strangling, it was pulling. Pulling tight. Thane immediately started struggling. He realized what was happening and tried to do something with his gun. However, the moment I saw him going for that move, I kicked the gun out of his hand. I scanned my memory, and then I kicked the back of one of Thane's legs. He fell to his knees and I continued to pull. Thane tried to reach out back, but from his position on the ground, it was incredibly awkward. I slightly moved, and he couldn't even touch me, much less do anything. My muscles began to strain, keeping the wire this taut. But I couldn't feel too bad, because Thane was having a much worse time of it. He began to paw at his throat, trying to do something about the wire. He didn't have any implement to remove the wire, so that pawing was completely ineffective. Finally, he just held his body up with his hands. I could hear, beneath his mask, a desperate choking sound. He was coming to the realization there was nothing he could do to prevent the current situation. He was realizing that his life was leaving him. So for a few more seconds, he just stayed in that equilibrium. And then I was doing more than strangling. His arms let go, and I tried to keep his body up with the wire. A part of me wanted to let go. Enough was enough. But I wasn't falling for this if it was a ploy. I used all my strength to keep Thane's body up, to keep pulling, and pulling, and pulling. And then, once it was completely unreasonable to think Thane was acting, I finally let go. Thane fell forwards and I collapsed to the ground backwards. I was panting heavily, sweating profusely. I could feel my vision becoming splotchy. My stomach was ill. There was a simple fact that I didn't want to accept. Lying before me was a corpse. I just murdered Thane. Everyone makes a big deal out of murder. I don't see it. So many people die every day. Does it really matter if the number of those deaths you're responsible for is 0 or 1? People like to assign more meaning to things than there is. Hey, want to hear a fun story about murder? Not really. Well, fuck you, I'm telling it anyway. This one time, in the middle of the night, an old man heard a knocking on the door. They hesitated for a moment and then stopped what he was doing and, after putting his tools away, went to the door. At the door was a police officer. "Excuse me, sir, do you have security measures for your home?" the officer asks. Not really, why?" responds the old man. "There's been a horrid string of murders as of late, and just earlier tonight, people reported a suspicious figure in the area," said the officer. "I want to make sure everybody around here was safe." "Gosh, how horrible. Thank you for informing me, officer," replied the old man. "Just doing my job," the officer said with a grin, unaware of the body under the bed in the old man's house. "Actually, if you want, I could get some security stationed around here for you. Make sure you're protected," the policeman offered. "That won't be necessary," said the old man. "I'm a woodcarver. I have plenty of tools to defend myself lying around." "Woodcarver, huh? You didn't hear about that profession every day," said the officer. At this point, a slight look of irritation began to cross the old man's face. "So thank you again for the warning, but it's late, and I want to finish my latest work before going to sleep. Wouldn't you mind leaving me alone?" At this, the police officer wavered. They wondered if they were being rude and what the right thing to do was. Finally, they nodded and said, "Sure thing, I didn't mean to keep you waiting." With a smile, the police officer turned and walked away, and the old man closed the door with a smile on his face. He went back over to his workshop to continue his final masterpiece, and the body under the bed began to move. Getting up, pulling out a knife, ready to do what they came for, and when the old man's body was eventually found, the police officer shrugged and said they did all they could. The end. Good times. Poor guy. So before we go, I have to test your reading comprehension. What was the moral of the story? Arrogance gets in the way of accepting help from others? Sure. I guess that's fine. A little standard for a moral. Kind of boring. But what can you do? And with that, we're going to wrap this episode up here. Can we get into the next one? Oh man, it's a green one. Alright, we're going back to the brawler one in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.